Guys, we're about to get into a very interesting video for a couple of reasons. What you're looking at right now is what they call Data Center Alley in Northern Virginia. It's the largest conglomeration of data centers on the planet, and they're basically all tied to one grid, and that has become a problem recently. I did a video a few back talking about basically the ghost in the machine, but what happens is as these high energy, very high energy data centers are pulling from the grid, if the sensors, which are controlled by AI, if they sense a voltage drop or a fluctuation, they immediately turn off the grid and flip to their battery backups, which don't last maybe 15 minutes, but it gives them time to turn the diesel generators on and get them up to speed. But what happens is if you just look at one of these data centers, they're pulling a tremendous amount of voltage off the grid, as we talked about, and when they turn that off instantly, it snaps back into the grid. In other words, it hits a roadblock. You've got a bias set up, a voltage system that is pulling, and when it stopped, it's like a car hitting and bouncing back off a brick wall, and it damages the outside grid. That's what they're seeing here now, and that is the reason that Texas Governor Greg Abbott stepped in, was it August 4th, somewhere right in there, guys, or 3rd, and started putting these data center new rules in place, because they didn't mention this snapback effect, but they were concerned about the Texas grid. But what had happened was exactly what we're describing, and it's happening here in Virginia, and they're all tied to one grid. Now, that is a weak link in the chain because, as I mentioned, one data center turning off and switching to the battery supply system causes a massive rebound or kickback. But if all of these are on the same line and it's happening, then they all sense it at the same time. The AI senses it faster than man can turn a switch and flips to the battery backup. So now you've got multiple snapback effects happening simultaneously. A tremendous amount of voltage, and what they're seeing is arcing damage, sparks, all of that damaging the outside grid, not necessarily theirs, because they're protecting it by switching off the grid. Now, they're looking at rules to stop this, and one of them, I think Greg Abbott has mentioned, is you can no longer use that disconnect sensor. You can no longer damage the grid by killing it. In other words, you can't program the AI to turn off the grid and cause a massive surge back into the main systems. It's damaging all of our gear out here. And so they're going to be left with one decision or two decisions. Either turn it off and let it die down slow, or let it run and possibly damage billions of dollars worth of chips. So that's going to be a legal battle. It's going to be a lot of things happening because of the conflict. But guys, you cannot get enough lawyers or enough judges in place to handle the physical aspects of what we're talking about. A massive grid down situation, not only here, because Texas almost has this many data centers also. And guys, even though they can cut that voltage back, they still suffer a little bit of damage. But here's 3 articles, one from the LA Times. AI power surge is frying its own data centers and rattling the grid at the same time. Rapid swings in AI data centers, power demands are straining vital equipment. In other words, they built a machine now, and they got the wagon ahead of the horse. You understand what I'm saying? They made a mad rush to terraform the planet almost, if you want to look at it like that. But this mad rush into it with very poor planning. And again, they should have looked at the schematics a little deeper in the models going out to where they knew they would have power grid outages. But for some reason, they had to rush in there and build something that it's going to destroy itself and possibly damage our grids. And if you had a major section like that Northern Virginia section go out at one time, you could do damage into the actual transformers and things like that that could be on a 2 or 3 week timeout period as far as before you could get them in and replace them, because we're dealing with unprecedented amounts of voltage here. Now, I mentioned that they would switch instantly to the backup batteries that they have in place. Gives them about 15 minutes. Why just 15 minutes on a $1 billion battery bank? Because it's a mirror of what they're using from our grid. Think about that. But what happens is then it switches to diesel. Now they've got about 24 hours if they're full, their tanks, the reserve diesel tanks, to power these. These are warehouse size almost generators. Are huge. They build huge walls to hide the emissions from them and the noise and the, it's an eyesore. But in 24 hours, if you have a situation where you've got, say, I remember in Katrina here, we were without power or water for a couple of weeks. Virginia is also on the coast. But when we had the last major hurricanes, and that's where this is leading to, because we've got two systems out in the Atlantic now. One of them that may come into this very Virginia area. We're going to watch it closely. But the data centers were not here where one of the major storms made impact in the Virginia area. But Mother Nature always has a way to shed the parasites that are damaging the planet in order to protect it. And again here, Texas halts power grid connections for new data centers because they saw the damage, and they're going to try to put in the system where they cannot kill the grid the way they're doing it. But I think that would take time to implement, and we're right in the heat of the summer. Now guys, you're looking at our Patreon channel, BP EarthWatch, but if you notice right here, it's 21 minutes and 38 seconds of the video. It would not load on YouTube. But what I've decided to do is start loading first onto Patreon and then into YouTube in case I still have some of these problems. It just would never completely finish the uploading process. Maybe it was a subject matter, maybe just the weather glitch, I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm going to place a link to the Patreon channel. And by the way, again, we will start uploading maybe a day ahead of time to Patreon first. I did a data dive today about the projection of YouTube going into 2027 and early 2028, and it appears that about 90% plus of all the videos then that are making it through the matrix are going to be AI. So we're going to prepare for that the best way we can. Join us on Patreon, guys. I appreciate it. Again, I tried to get the full 21 minute and 38 seconds onto YouTube. It just would not happen. But it is there, and I appreciate you watching, guys. It's a heads up. Be safe.